His little daughter, Ada, was lying in a hospital bed on the other side of the city, and hospital beds do not come free in Lagos. He had just dropped off his last passenger of the night. He was about driving his car home when something caught the corner of his eye. There was something on the back seat. He turned around slowly, squinting in the darkness. It was a briefcase, dark brown leather, with 2 golden locks on the front. It was the kind of briefcase that rich men carry, the kind Silas had only ever seen in Nollywood movies. It was sitting right there on his back seat, as calm as if it belonged there. Silas stared at it. He looked around outside the car. The street was quiet. The big iron gate ahead of him was shut. There was no one watching. He reached back and pulled the briefcase onto the passenger seat beside him. It was heavier than he expected. He sat there with both hands resting on top of it, his heart beating just a little faster than usual. He should have driven away. He should have just started the car and gone home, but something made him open it. The locks were not locked. They clicked open with a soft snap on each side, and Silas lifted the lid slowly, like a man who was not sure what he would find, maybe important papers, maybe a laptop, maybe an old man's reading glasses. What he found, instead, made the air leave his lungs completely. Money. Bundles and bundles of money, neatly arranged in rows, wrapped with rubber bands. And not just any money, crisp, clean 1,000 Naira notes, stacked so perfectly that for a moment Silas thought he was dreaming. On top of the money were several folded documents, papers with official stamps and long words written in bold print. Silas closed the briefcase quickly, as if someone might see him. He opened it again. The money was still there. He sat back in his seat and pressed both palms against his face. His mind was racing. His hands were trembling slightly. He had been driving all day for small change. His daughter was in the hospital. His wife was at home worrying herself to sleep every night. And here on his back seat, was more money than he had ever seen in his entire life. He did not count it that night, but somehow, just from looking at it, he could tell it was a lot, a whole lot. He started the car and drove home. Let's pause on the story. If you're enjoying this story so far, let me know by subscribing to this channel. It helps me tell even more stories like this one. If you've subscribed, let's get back into the story. Silas lived in a small rented apartment in Mushin, one of the older, busier parts of Lagos. The building had yellow paint that was peeling off the walls, and the staircase creaked loudly every time someone walked up it. But it was home. Rebecca always kept it clean and warm, no matter how tired she was. When he pushed open the door, Rebecca was sitting at the small dining table with a cup of tea she had probably forgotten to drink. She was wearing her blue house dress, and her hair was tied back. She looked up when he came in, and right away she could see that something was different about him. "Silas, what happened? You look like you saw a ghost." He said nothing. He walked to the table, set the briefcase down carefully, and opened it. Rebecca stood up so fast her chair scraped the floor. She walked over slowly, as if the briefcase might bite. She looked inside. She looked at Silas. She looked inside again. "Where did this come from?" she whispered. "One of my passengers left it in the car," he said. "The last man I carried tonight. He got down at that big house on Burdelin Road and forgot it." Rebecca reached out and touched one of the bundles of money, as if making sure it was real. "How much is here?" "I don't know exactly, but a lot, Rebecca, a lot." She pulled a chair closer and sat down, her eyes wide and very bright. Silas sat across from her, his hands folded on the table. "We have to return it," he said. Rebecca looked at him. "We have to find the man and return it," he repeated, his voice quiet but firm. For a moment, his wife said nothing. She just looked at the money in the briefcase. Then she closed her eyes and breathed in slowly. "Silas," she said, and her voice was very careful, the way her voice always got when she was trying very hard not to shout. "Do you know how long Ada has been in that hospital? Do you know how much they say we still owe? Do you know that I cried for 1 hour this afternoon because I did not know where the money would come from?" I know, he said softly. Then how can you sit here and tell me you want to return this money? Because it is not ours. It is not ours, she repeated slowly, like she was tasting each word and finding them sour. Silas, look at this money, look at it. This is not somebody's pocket change. This is our daughter's life. This is our future. Whoever owns this briefcase will not even notice it is missing. These kind of people, they sneeze money, Silas, they sneeze it. That does not make it right to keep it. Right? Rebecca's voice cracked slightly. I am not talking about right and wrong. I am talking about Ada. Our Ada who is lying in that hospital with a drip in her hand. Our Ada who asks me every day when she is coming home. Tell me, Silas, what do we tell her? That her father kept his conscience clean while she suffered. Silas looked down at the table. His jaw was tight. I found documents in the briefcase, he said. Papers. I think I know who this man is. I think he is the owner of Okafor Automobile Company. Rebecca blinked. Okafor, Chief Okafor. I think so. The name is on the documents. Rebecca sat back. Even she knew the name Okafor. Everyone in Lagos knew the name Okafor. Emeka Okafor was one of the richest men in Nigeria, a man who had built his automobile company from nothing into something the whole country knew about. His cars were everywhere. His face was on billboards. So you carried Chief Okafor himself in your Uber, she said. It seems so. She was quiet for a moment. Then she leaned forward. Silas, listen to me. If this man is as rich as everyone says, this 3 million naira is nothing to him. Nothing. But to us, it is everything. It is Ada's hospital bill. It is a new beginning. We could start that small business we have been talking about for years. We could move out of this apartment. We could. Rebecca. Don't Rebecca me. I am your wife. I am Ada's mother. I have every right to fight for my family. And so do I, he said, but fighting for my family does not mean stealing. It is not stealing. The man forgot it in your car. If I keep what is not mine, it is stealing, no matter how it came to me. Rebecca stood up and walked to the window, her arms crossed. The street outside was quiet now. A dog barked somewhere far away. Silas could hear his own breathing. My father always told me, Silas said slowly, that a good name is worth more than millions. He said that money can come and go, but the kind of man you are, that is the thing that stays with you forever. That is the thing your children will carry when you are gone. Your father is dead, Silas, she said, and her voice was sharp and hurt at the same time. Yes, he said, he is, and I want to be the father to Ada that he was to me. I want her to know, when she is grown, that her father was an honest man. I want that to mean something. Rebecca was silent. Her shoulders were tense. She would not turn around. If you return that money, she said at last, her voice very low, I will leave you, Silas, I mean it. I will take Ada and I will leave, and I will not come back, because I cannot live with a man who watches his daughter suffer and calls it honor. The room was very, very quiet. Silas looked at his wife's back. He looked at the briefcase on the table. He thought about Ada, her small face, her thin arms, the way she always reached up for him when he came to visit her at the hospital and said, Daddy, when are we going home? He thought about how much he loved his wife and how much it hurt to hear her speak to him like this. He thought about his father. He thought about the kind of man he had always promised himself he would be. He stood up. He picked up the briefcase. I will be back before midnight, he said. Rebecca did not turn around. She did not say a word. He waited for just a moment, hoping she might say something, anything. But she stayed at the window, arms crossed, staring at the dark street below. Silas walked out of the apartment, down the creaking stairs, and back to his car. If this story is touching your heart, subscribe now. Because the choice Silas makes tonight will hunt him for years, but not in the way you imagine. Stay with me. The drive to Berdelin Road felt longer than it had earlier in the night. Silas kept his hands steady on the steering wheel and his eyes on the road. He did not let himself think too much, because he knew that if he thought too much, he might turn the car around and go home. He had the name from the documents. He had the address, the same big house with the iron gate where he had dropped the man off earlier. He just had to get there, and hand it over and leave. When he arrived at the gate, a security guard stepped out of a small booth and shone a torch through the car window. "Good evening," Silas said. "I am an Uber driver. I carried someone here earlier tonight. He left something in my car. I am here to return it." The guard looked at him for a long moment, then disappeared back into his booth to make a phone call. Silas sat and waited. His palms were a little damp on the steering wheel. He wiped them on his trousers. After a few minutes, the big gate rolled open. A young man in a white shirt came out and led Silas inside the compound. The house was even bigger up close, a wide, beautiful building with lights on the outside that made the whole front look golden. There were cars parked in the driveway that cost more than Silas would earn in 10 lifetimes. He was shown into a sitting room near the front of the house and asked to wait. He sat on the edge of the chair with the briefcase on his lap, looking at the large painting on the wall and the smooth marble floors that shone like still water. Then Chief Emeka Okafor walked in. He was a tall man in his 60s, wearing a simple grey agbada that still managed to look expensive. His hair was white at the sides, and he wore glasses on the end of his nose. He looked like a man who had seen everything and was not easily surprised. But when his eyes landed on the briefcase in Silas's hands, something moved across his face, a flash of recognition, and then something else, something Silas could not quite name. "You found it," the older man said. "Yes, sir, you left it in my car tonight. I brought it back as soon as I found it." Chief Okafor sat down slowly in the chair across from Silas and took the briefcase. He opened it. He looked inside for a long time, at the money, at the documents, at every single bundle of notes, still perfectly in place. His face was very still, but his eyes were moving carefully. He closed the briefcase. He looked at Silas. "Nothing is missing," he said. "It was not quite a question." "No, sir, I did not touch anything." The chief was quiet for a moment. He took off his glasses and cleaned them with the edge of his agbada, a slow, thoughtful motion. "Young man," he said at last, "do you know what is in this briefcase?" "Money, sir, and some documents." 3 million Naira, Chief Okafor said, "and documents worth far more than that, contracts that took me 6 months to close." He paused. "I have been in business for over 30 years. I have met all kinds of people, and I will tell you honestly, I did not expect to see this briefcase again." Silas did not know what to say, so he said nothing. "What is your name?" "Silas, sir, Silas Adwale." "Silas," the chief repeated the name as if he was writing it somewhere inside his head. "Why did you bring it back?" The question hung in the air between them. Silas thought about all the things he could say. He thought about Ada. He thought about Rebecca standing at the window with her arms crossed. He thought about his father's voice, low and sure, saying the words he had heard 100 times growing up. "My father always said that a good name is worth more than millions, sir," he said simply. "I did not want to be the kind of man that would forget that." Chief Okafor looked at him for a long time. Then the older man nodded once, a slow, deliberate nod, and reached into the folds of his agbada. He brought out a checkbook. Silas watched, confused, as the chief wrote carefully, tore the check out, and held it across to him. Silas took it and looked at the number written there. 1 million Naira. He looked up quickly. "Sir." "That is for your honesty," Chief Okafor said. "Consider it a reward, but there is something else." He leaned forward slightly, his elbows resting on his knees. "I am always looking for honest people, Silas. You would be surprised how rare they are. I have a position at my company that I have been trying to fill for several months, a supervisory role at our main service center on Lagos Island. It is for someone who can spot problems, offer good solutions, and be trusted to do the right thing even when no one is looking." He tilted his head. "I think you might be that person." Silas blinked. "Sir, I am an Uber driver. I do not have." "What did you do before driving?" "I worked at a mechanic workshop for 8 years, sir. I know automobiles." Chief Okafor smiled for the first time that night. It was a slow smile, but it was warm. Then you know exactly what we do. The rest, the office things, the paperwork, those can be learned. Good character cannot be taught. He stood up and extended his hand. Come to the head office on Monday morning. Ask for Mr. Bello. He will be expecting you. Silas stood and shook the hand of one of the most powerful men in Nigeria, and his own hand was steady. Subscribe and tell me where you are watching from. He drove home slowly, not because there was traffic, but because he needed the quiet. He needed to sit with what had just happened. The check was folded in his shirt pocket, and it felt, somehow, lighter than 3 million Naira would have. When he got back to the apartment, Rebecca was sitting exactly where he had left her, at the table, though she had moved from the window. She looked up when he came in, and her eyes were red. She had been crying. She opened her mouth, probably to say something sharp, something guarded, but Silas sat down across from her and placed the check on the table between them. She looked at it, she picked it up, she read the number, she set it back down, she looked at him. He gave you this, she whispered. Yes, and something else. He told her everything, every word of the conversation, the chief's face when he saw that nothing was missing, the offer, Monday morning, Mr. Bello. Rebecca sat very still as he talked. Her hands were flat on the table, her eyes were wet. When he finished, she did not say anything for a long time. Then she put her face in her hands and her shoulders shook, and Silas reached across the table and held her hands and waited. I was wrong, she said, her voice muffled behind her fingers. You were scared, he said. There is a difference. She lifted her face. I told you I would leave you. I know. I would never have left you. I know that too. She laughed a little, a short, wet sound, and wiped her face with the back of her hand. She looked at the check again, then at her husband, and something in her face was different now, softer, like a woman who had remembered why she loved the man sitting across from her. Ada is going to be okay, she said. Yes, Silas said, she is. On Monday morning, Silas Adwale put on the best shirt he owned, a clean white one that Rebecca had pressed with great care the night before, and drove to the Okafor Automobile Company head office on Lagos Island. The building was large and glass-fronted, with the company logo printed in bold letters across the top. Cars of all kinds sat gleaming in the showroom on the ground floor. People in uniforms moved purposefully in every direction. The whole place smelled of something Silas could only describe as possibility. He asked for Mr. Bello at the front desk. Mr. Bello was a compact, businesslike man who shook Silas's hand firmly and led him straight to the service center at the back of the complex. A wide, well-lit space with cars in various stages of being worked on, tools arranged neatly on shelves, and a team of mechanics going about their business with quiet focus. Silas stood at the entrance of that space and felt something shift inside him. It was familiar. It was the smell of engine oil and metal and effort. It was the world he knew. He looked at the first car on the floor, a sleek company model with the bonnet open, and he already knew, just from looking, that the issue was likely in the cooling system. He could see where the hose connection had been recently replaced, but improperly sealed. Small thing, easy to miss, very important. He pointed it out to Mr. Bello quietly, with no fuss. Mr. Bello looked at the car, then looked at Silas, then looked at the car again. You have been here 4 minutes, Mr. Bello said. My eyes are used to looking, Silas replied simply. Mr. Bello smiled and clapped him once on the shoulder. Welcome to Okafor Automobile, Mr. Adwale. I think you are going to fit in just fine. Silas looked around the service center, at the cars, at the people, at the big windows that let in the Lagos morning light, and breathed in slowly. His daughter was getting better. His wife had held his hand all Sunday evening and told him 3 times that she was proud of him. He had a check in the bank that would clear Ada's hospital bill and leave enough over to breathe easy for a while. And now he had a place, a real place, where his hands and his mind and everything his years of honest work had built inside him could finally be used for something good. His father had been right. A good name was worth more than millions. But on this particular Monday morning, standing at the start of a new life in the heart of the biggest automobile company in Lagos, Silas was beginning to understand that sometimes, if you held on to your name tightly enough, the millions had a way of finding you anyway. Subscribe to this channel right now because we bring to you new stories every week, and these stories don't just entertain you, they challenge you to be better version you are meant to be. Hit the subscribe button and tell me in the comments section, if you were Silas, would you return the briefcase?